I was born lonely down by the riverside, learned to spin the fortune wheels and throw dice. I was just 13 when I had to leave home, knew I couldn't stick around, had to roam. I ain't good looking, but you know I ain't shy, ain't afraid to look a girl in the eye. So if you need some loving and you need it right away, take a little time now and maybe I'll stay, but I got to ramble. I've got to gamble. I've got to ramble. Because I was born a rambling, gambling man. Yeah. And the irony of that selection is that I am neither a rambling nor a gambling man. I'm actually a real homebody.
I loved it.
Chris, man.
Very
thank you
passionate.
very much,
I loved
man.
Yeah.
That was, you caught us off guard.
I'm
man.
all worn out now. It's that's it. The show's over.
No. We still need another 90 minutes
I
of
didn't
energy.
even want to interrupt. I was like, oh, this is good.
So we have Chris McKaskell.
Yes.
Chris McKaskell.
Yes.
And what are we going to talk about today, Chris?
What do you guys want to talk about?
You're a fine cabinetry guy.
Yep.
You're an artisan, woodworker. What are we going to talk about?
That's totally cool. Actually, a couple of things that we could touch on: the difference in industries. People talk a lot about custom cabinetry and what that means, and
they throw that word custom.
Oh man, and it means nothing.
I know.
Where I'm coming from, custom can be a shark skin vanity.
That's
custom. That to me is custom.
We're not talking just changes in colors.
Right? Really custom.
Yeah. So
okay, so we're gonna talk. We got an interesting show. I'm excited about this one, and I know you took the drive all the way from London, Ontario, which is a good 90 kilometers or so. We really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Pleasure to be here.
And we got to take care of a little bit of housekeeping right now.
Well, first, I want to do a big shout out to Mark from Skylux for
Roofing.
always believing in what we're doing and changing the industry.
The boys are wrapping up their day, so that's why you're hearing all the noise going on.
It's
Either
live,
that or them working out in the
live
gym.
here.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
So thank you, Mark, for letting us use the home base here to record our podcast. What else do I want to say?
Oh, wow. We're going to do a history with Manny.
I can't believe he's ready. I can't believe he's ready.
I can't believe you're not.
I am ready. It's right here. Chris, I want to ask you, there's a few questions here. I want to ask you, and I'm assuming you probably know this. I'm sure Carlito won't.
Even though I've been getting them right.
Where does the word kitchen come from?
That's a great question. I have no idea.
Wow. You got me stumped also.
Okay,
So Manny, where does the word kitchen come from?
It's a Latin verb, comes from coquire, meaning to cook. The connection between coquire and cook is easy to see, but kitchen has more evolved in history from the verb of coquire. Came from...
You say cocaine?
Coquina.
Oh.
Coquina meaning a kitchen, with some changes in pronunciation where it became Old English and Sicin? I can't remember exactly. This became Middle English kitchenini, which finally became Modern English kitchen.
Wow.
That's
Phenomenal.
Very interesting.
That's not all of the history. I wanted to ask Chris, what are the 6 different types of kitchen layouts? There's 6 basic types of kitchen layouts.
Okay, and that is a good question. One thing to understand with me is that I'm not at the design end of things. I am very much at the working.
But you've seen a lot of different...
I've seen a lot of kitchens.
Yeah, like a lot of... So take a guess. I mean, I knew about 2 of these, to be honest.
I mean, you're going to have a galley kitchen. That's definitely one of them.
That's definitely
You're gonna
one.
have a completely open kitchen. You get into some really great French names for different types of restaurant kitchen as well. But
Well, these go off shapes, and so this is more design based, right? So you do have the galley, you have the U-shaped kitchen. So I guess it's kind of a galley that turns around.
yeah, it's also probably got to do with production flow.
Oh, that's right.
Right.
So that's more like commercial restaurant kind of setup.
Yeah, but I mean, you also get into strange situations. Well, not very particular uses. So a spice kitchen versus
Yes.
a cold kitchen. Right?
Yes.
Interesting. Nice.
You get into L-shaped kitchens. You get into island kitchens. You get into peninsula kitchens. And you get into, I don't even know what this is, the 2-island kitchen. What is that?
Well, it's going to be a 2-island kitchen.
So it's just 2 islands? That's all it is?
Sure.
A
So
Caribbean kitchen?
I take it one is to eat at and one is to wash your dishes and so on.
Possibly.
Could also be a kosher issue.
I was
Right?
about to say
Wow.
that. Exactly. I was about to say that. So the last section of today's history, can you guys tell me the world's most expensive woods?
What?
Woods.
So there's
The
more
different
than one.
woods. So I'll just give you guys an idea. African blackwood, $10,000 per kilogram.
What?
Agar wood. I don't even know what agar wood
Agar?
is.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, $10,000 per kilogram. Ebony,
I never knew ebony was
$10,000 per kilogram. Sandalwood, $20,000 per kilogram of sandalwood.
So one of the questions is how many board feet in a kilogram of each of these woods?
Well, that's a very good
Right?
question.
That's going to have to do with density. And,
You have to figure that out. The other four are pink ivory, 7 to 8 per board foot. Lignum vitae.
lignum vitae.
Okay, so
Or ironwood.
that is the cheapest one. You're at $5 per pound.
Okay.
Thank God.
Purple Heart. I love Purple Heart wood. $11.99 per board foot. And then you have Dalbergia, Dalbergia, 14 to 16 per board foot.
That wasn't an order though.
No, it's not an order.
Yeah.
I'm just saying we're a long way away from pine and spruce and ash and
Yeah.
hickory. I remember the first time I was walking through one of these places and I was coming across the Africans, the mahoganies, the sandal, the purple, and I was like, whoa, I can't believe all this. But then you also find out how rare
Yes.
these woods are.
Yeah.
Right? So
Now the question is that used in furniture or building kitchens?
it's both, from my
Yeah.
understanding.
Most expensive lumber that I've ever used was an Indonesian rosewood. So an honest to goodness genuine rosewood, which when I purchased that in the early 90s, it would have been $87 a board foot. Wow. So today
Is
I
it
can't
is
imagine
it
as
as
well.
is it red?
No, it's brown. I mean,
It's a brown,
It's
yeah.
funny because you've got to know what you're looking at. Where you really see the difference is when you're working it. It's quite dense and very spicy. In terms
Spicy as in hot?
no, fragrant.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah, you can get that with teaks as well. But a lot of these woods are just not commonly available.
No.
They generally have pretty specific applications, right? You might
Yes.
be looking at museum grade restorations. You know, the teak we were working with recently. I was working with something for a friend at home, turning these spheres that ultimately were going to be submerged in water.
And it will actually survive?
Yeah, sure.
Totally fine.
Sure. They used to use ironwood, the lignum vitae, to make ball bearings for water jets, for water
wow.
pumps.
Okay.
That was history with Manny. Now,
So,
would that be?
hang on, we got like a huge show here. I still
know,
haven't
well, you just got me going.
I haven't even gotten into to find you, Chris. It's at Chris McKaskell, and it's spelled with an McKaskell.
Yes, sir.
And also, you can find your partner in crime, which is Chris Hindle.
That's right.
And so it's same thing, HINDL.
HINDL, yes.
Yes. And then on the website, it's www.mhdbonline.com.
Or mhdbonline.com.
Online, MHDB online, and you can also catch these guys through email with info at that same address, and also the phone number. Who uses phone number, Carlito? Area code is 519
I do.
318 4800.
Yeah, the 318-4800 is my cell phone number. People are always welcome to reach out to me.
Text.
We've got an office number as well, but we tend not to be in the office a whole lot.
No, you guys are working.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that we've got all the housekeeping out of the way, let's get right back to your story, Chris.
Sure.
What do you guys want to tell us? Where do you guys want to begin? Like, how, are you our age? Or you're a little younger? No, we're pushing 50.
Yeah, no, I'm in my early mid 50s.
Oh, okay, yeah, you're our
So
age.
we're contemporaries. We're contemporaries.
Working hard is doing well for you.
Thank you. There's nothing like the relaxation of being in a shop floor.
So how far back do we go from the time that have you always been in wood in this industry?
Oh, no.
No?
No.
What were you before? Where'd you get started?
Gee whiz. This is the industry I always wanted to be in. I always wanted to make stuff from the earliest age. And what got me started, what really sort of helped was bring back elementary and high school shop classes.
We always say that,
Yeah.
and it's a shame that they're quickly disappearing.
That early exposure makes all the difference in the world.
Huge. I think all three of us at this table experienced that in our high school years, no?
No, phenomenal.
Yeah.
Phenomenal
Well, the
years.
appreciation for the machines.
Yes.
You don't get to have that. You don't get to experiment with your money buying stuff like that. So doing it in school, you really get to appreciate it. And then when you're a mature adult, you get to buy the things that you know you need.
But there's also the physical intelligence, right, which isn't really rewarded in an academic setting, right? So it tends to be discouraged. On the shop floor, you know within a few moments whether somebody's got physical, three-dimensional, spatial intelligence or not.
I never looked at it that way. That is so true.
It's
you
funny.
can talk a big game, but can you play the big game?
No, it's funny you say that because I remember in woodshop class, like there was about 3 of us. We'd finish our project in a week.
Right.
The rest of them would work on it the whole year. And I'd finish like 10 projects making things that I wanted. And the teacher would be like, "What are you making?" And I'd be like, "Nunchucks."
Brilliant.
What are you using? Bamboo.
I was just about to ask you what was that first thing that you built? Was it nunchucks?
No. Actually, I made we had to make like little toys at the beginning.
Mine was a
just to find out.
checkerboard.
He wanted to find out if we were capable of not cutting our hands off and if we had some kind of intelligence, like you said. But my first real project that I chose was actually like a bench. And I gave it to my parents, and it was amazing. A teacher actually loved it, and he's like, you should make them a whole bunch of these. And I'm like, yeah, sure, bye. And I should have.
What was your first one, Chris?
Always making stuff, even before going into industrial arts class in grade 7 we had it. But I remember the first project that we had in grade 7 would have been casting resin. And so we had to sort of
In grade 7, you guys are casting resin?
yeah.
Wow.
And so, base of acrylic, we ended up cutting our initials out of this thin aluminum sheet stock and then peening it to give it a little bit of texture, and then casting resin around that, machining the resin. Not machining, actually. We had this fantastic old...
CNC machine?
No, we're talking
This
like
is a ways
1970s.
back. He's our age,
But
man.
back then, we had machine shops, and you could kind of like...
Yeah, no CNC machines, no. But
40 years
so
ago.
we were doing everything with hand saws and planes and hand planes, and it was a wonderful experience. I actually managed to work in a shop at one point briefly, about 6 months. He didn't do well, but it was a shop after university that I was working in. He was cutting everything by hand as well.
Still old school.
Still old school, yeah.
Did he have all the saws and everything, like all the?
Yeah. Well, those things have a place.
What are those? Like, there's a name for those, aren't they? All those specific kind of hand tools that those guys use that actually cut their own dovetails and set up that whole jig system. Those, what are they? The back saws or
Yeah,
those.
Yeah, you can use a back saw.
That's all it is, right?
But dovetails are kind of a touchy-feely thing. I mean, you can use the lead jig and route them out using a machine and a jig with a form. What's cool about getting good at hand-cut dovetails, though, is you don't lay anything out. You might strike a baseline, and then you can sort of feel your way through.
Really?
Feel your way through the wood, chop it out. There's some video. If you check out my Instagram account, you'll see me.
Some of the
hand-cutting
videos there. Yeah,
Manny's
that's right.
totally excited.
No,
that.
that's impressive.
But the point is that when it becomes comfortable, then you can actually start to play with it. So it becomes, I think that's probably where it begins to become art. And so no two dovetails are alike. Each drawer piece is made specifically for that drawer, and it's all hand laid out. And when you get good at it, it's actually surprisingly fast.
So it's very personal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Wow. That's so cool.
And I think sometimes, when you get into the higher end custom stuff, a lot of times the client is looking for that personal connection with the maker.
They're looking for those little micro defects, right? Like they don't want it to be so machine perfect.
Like, hand carving.
I know. That's what you appreciate.
Right. So when I'm carving, one of the things that really stands out is how imperfect it is, but how it's consistently imperfect.
Yes.
And it creates this kind of beauty that, I love, first time we do this sort of reeded pattern in solid panels. They end up becoming doors or maybe panels in drawers or whatever. But the first time we displayed it was at the interior design show. This is several years ago. We ended up positioning the cabinet at the end of an aisle. And as people, maybe 150 meters away, as they saw the cabinet, you could see their eyes light up. And they'd move towards it. And I spoke with a number. What was going on in their head was, wow, I've never seen figure like that in a piece of wood. And so they're moving to it. And as they get closer, they realize, wait a minute, that doesn't look like figure. There's something wrong with this. And they speed up and they get closer again. They begin to realize that this isn't figure at all. It looks to be some kind of texture. And invariably everybody would reach out and have to touch it.
Isn't that weird how that is? Eh?
What a connection, eh?
Right, totally. And then the next question was invariably, what machine did you use to make this?
Why do everybody? Why? Like, I can't stand that. Why can't they just accept the fact that someone actually hand did this?
Yeah.
Because nobody believes there's anybody doing it
It's
anymore.
still being done.
Yeah.
It's still being done. That's why you got to respect it. It's true though that they need to touch it, and then they need to question what machine.
Well, and the really interesting thing, the trade, not the trade-off, but the relationship between handcrafting something in a shop space and construction is that construction is all hands. I mean, you get these moments. So there's a huge relationship.
It is.
I see this
Well said.
continuum, kind of going from digging out for the foundation, pouring the footing, framing everything on top of it, making things. Kind of starts with the house structure and it ends with the furnishings.
You're totally right.
Wow.
So we're all in this together, guys.
I'm gonna quote you, Chris.
Please do.
I did want to say something. Most people want to touch things. I want to smell things.
Okay.
I have a crazy thing for smelling wood. Like, not that kind of wood either. So I'll see wood and I'll be like, and people are like, what are you doing? I'm like, I have to smell it.
So you would love something like Indonesian Rosewood, right? It's got that lovely spicy smell, but super toxic. So you got to be careful. Don't smell too much of it.
Oh, is it really?
Oh, sure, yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
so you've got to protect yourself. You got to.
So you got to be wearing a respirator when you're actually milling it and working with it.
You should. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
And it's funny you say that because a lot of wood that comes over here stays dormant for like 6 months in a warehouse before it's released.
Yes.
But the minute you cut into it and heat hits it, whatever life that was in there that's gone dormant now comes alive again.
And that's always a
you can
concern,
get
too.
sick, right?
Sure. Yeah, you can. Yeah. No,
So
it's-
we got
dusts are dangerous.
totally sidetracked on a bunch of things because I think we started with the rosewood and then it went into trade schools and then it went. I don't know. I don't know. I was trying to catch up and figure out.
I know, but that's garage
I know,
talk.
which is amazing, which is totally amazing because I'm so respectful of it and I'm trying to figure out. So, where was that beginning for you? Where did it all start? How did it just?
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Yeah. So I always knew I wanted to make stuff. No question about that. But my father was a professor, and the expectation was I was going to go to university, and so there was zero support. And I don't mean financial support. I mean there was no emotional support.
As it was at that
And
time.
I am not strongly academic, right? I'm having a tough time just sitting here. I want to get up and move around as we're talking, right?
If you want to stand, man.
ADD, I have it too.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and so getting through. So I did go. I started in theater at. I went to York, did the theater program.
That's
there,
right.
Which was an awful lot of fun. I went into stagecraft. So early formal training was building sets and lighting, learning lighting, and all that sort of stuff.
Centuries.
Sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you put weeks and sometimes months of effort into a production that then gets tossed in the bin. So the ephemeral nature of this stuff, like the amount of effort the huge teams of people were putting into this stuff just to see it get tossed out,
Just make you cry.
really offensive.
It just make you cry.
So
I know.
I ended up.
Bin diving.
Well, no,
No.
I dropped out of that program, picked up at U of T, and did a degree in art history and physical geography, and I paid my way through university working as a carpenter. So I've got two trade licenses. I've got the carpenter's ticket, and I've got the cabinetmaker's ticket. So general carpenter and cabinetmaker, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why I see making stuff as being a continuum from foundation up to furnishings.
And we totally agree. I mean, that's for sure.
But you have such a wider appreciation for this whole industry. Like just being into, like listening to you talk about the different types of wood. Most people don't even know what that is. They'll never handle it in their whole life.
Right.
So you being obviously you're a furniture maker.
When you get into funny situations too, where different people will use different words for the same wood, right? So in carpentry, we often think of white wood being paint grade, white wood
Poplar.
We call it poplar,
Yeah.
and you'll get into some woody guys who are calling it tulip,
Yeah, I've heard it called tulip as well.
right?
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's really good to have other people's perspective or other trades perspectives, not just for on-site sympathy and working together, right? If we're all in this together, then you're more likely to leave the site tidy for the next guy. You're more likely to be problem solving and thinking about what the next guy needs.
Exactly.
I love working with electricians and plumbers when we're doing kitchen installs. Coordinating with those guys and the GC
It's a team.
is yes, and we're all working towards the same end goal, which
Yeah.
is this beautiful project. Even when it's not high end
Oh,
stuff.
what's really funny is when you guys all stand back and it's all completed, everything's all clean, and everyone's looking at everything. You know, the electrician's looking at the lighting. You know, you're looking at the cabinetry. You know, the stone guy's looking at the countertop. Everybody's just looking at theirs, right?
But I think you said something really important. A lot of people don't think the way you do, and they just go and it's just a job, and it shows in their workmanship.
It
right?
does.
Yeah.
It
So
does.
you being passionate. Yeah.
So not just looking at the cabinetry, but then looking at how the electrical covers line up. You know, did the guy clock the screws? Did he?
But I mean, I'm still surprised. People are still using screw plates. They're
Right,
Not, they're
sure.
not going screwless plates.
wait.
now?
Why don't you ask him what style?
Okay, so hang
vertical
on.
or
So
horizontal?
where do you expect that slotted screw to be, vertical or horizontal, on a single gang?
Sure.
Which one do
and
you
that's really funny
prefer?
because for years I was doing it horizontal.
I've always done it horizontal, man. That's why.
And then I had an electrician school me, and he insisted on it being vertical because that's the way he was taught. And it's so sometimes that stuff comes out of your training, right? Like,
Yes.
you know, in the wood shop. I mean, I haven't been doing much sharpening right now, but there's usually a bald patch on this arm from testing. The sharpness of your blade, and you know, I can tell where somebody was trained if they've got that, right? So, I mean, Andreas, our master Swiss, licensed both as a pipe organ builder and as a cabinet maker out of Switzerland, has always got the same
Oh
bald
my
spot in his
God!
arm,
I'm
right?
never going to look at a carpenter the same way again.
Well, and if you don't see that bald spot, the shit's not sharp.
I love it. It's true, man. We're gonna look at Tony differently. We're gonna look at everybody differently now. Oh, that's too funny, man.
Anyway, but yeah, so I paid my way through university working as a general carpenter during a boom. And when I was up in Robarts, this was when, so this is like I graduated in 1990. So this is a few years ago. There was this whole section, like they'd updated all the catalogs so that it was on one computer-based system. And I ended up finding when I was up there just strolling the stacks, all these books from the 19th century, right? So 1880s, 1890s, on how, like, it was these master craftsmen. People weren't apprenticing anymore because they were getting these, you know, higher paying jobs or easier to make quick money in the factories kind of jobs. And so they were no longer signing up for apprenticeships. And so these guys who had been doing their shit for decades, 40, 50 years, were starting to record their knowledge in books. And there's about a 20-year span where you've got this collection of books that the university doesn't value, so they haven't updated it into the computer system. You've got to actually physically go up there and find these things. And I started reading these and realized that they're kind of, at that point in my life, there were two ways to go. One was to embrace craft and learn how to use my hands really well, which I was inclined to anyway. And the other was to go high tech, right? And learn how to use a computer and do really well in that. You know, my friends who went that route have got much nicer houses than I.
Are they happy?
Don't get psychology.
And that's perhaps another session.
Yes.
But the point is, you know, if you know how to make stuff, I think that there's generally always something to do.
It's so true, man.
One of the things I really like, this is kind of weird, I really respect about you, is I'm now looking at the Band-Aids on your thumb, and like I can see that you're hands-on.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you
So-
just came from the shop?
Yeah, I mean, I took enough time to have a shower.
Yeah.
and,
Get
you know,
ready. But you basically had the shop day. That's
yes.
what you had
Oh, yeah.
going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, today was a fast-paced day.
And obviously your blades aren't sharp.
No, not today.
Not today. So how long has your shop been going now? And when did you partner up with the other Chris?
Heindel and I have been working together for 25 years.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah.
you guys, like, kids, friends, or university days?
I mean, I think he and I started McKaskell Heindel when I was around 28, I think. Finished university and went immediately to work for a pipe organ builder. So my apprenticeship, I mean, I got the construction hours, the carpentry hours in through university, and then a couple of years, sporadic years after, but enough to write the exam. The cabinet making stuff really started with, I mean, at that time, there wasn't a whole lot of work available. This was the big recession at the beginning of the 90s. I ended up spending a couple of years with a Swiss master wood carver, a couple of years in an architectural woodworking place, a few years building pipe organs.
How did you find all these guys? Like,
I looked for them.
You hunted them?
As soon as I was done university, because like I said, my dad, they really wanted me to go to university. And so as soon as I did that, boom, I was free. And
Wow,
so I wrote letters. I would go to the library and go through the yellow pages from different cities looking for...
The yellow pages, I love it.
Yeah.
Seriously? So different city yellow pages, and that's how you found these guys?
You pull out Halifax, you pull out Vancouver, I ended up making a list of these masters who were doing their stuff, and I wrote letters to them. And some of them wrote back, and so I went and visited... I traveled across Canada and visited a bunch of them. They all sort of had similar stories. They're a little bit older and been doing their stuff for a long time. As I'm returning to Toronto, because I lived in Toronto at the time, did a decade in Toronto. As I got back to Toronto, somebody suggested I check out Siggy Bueller. And, check him out on Instagram. He's not using hashtags and stuff like that, so people aren't discovering him. But Siggy Bueller is a Swiss master wood carver. The stuff he's doing is phenomenal. I tracked him down. Went to his house several times over about a month or 2 month period because he really didn't want to take me on. Convinced him. I worked for free for the first year. So I'm sweeping floors. I'm learning how to sharpen tools. 6 months just sharpening tools. Because people get all romantic and excited about how to sharpen their tools. Bullshit. Just get it sharp, right? I'm doing really well. And, so as soon as you figured out sharpening enough, you became useful in other ways. And after about a year, I'd gotten good enough that he was willing to pay me. And then you get into the repetitious stuff, right? Like egg and dart molding and running a canthus and stuff like that. We did that year we did an absolute ton of white oak swags. And so kind of think about like a white oak leaf.
Oh yeah,
vine,
I know what you're talking about.
Acorns.
You did a ton of those?
Yeah. Well, they had to be done, and so there you got you're roughing the thing out. It's probably a curved piece of wood, usually white oak, so it's really tough, and you end up tracing out or drawing out the pattern. You'll route the background by hand on this curved piece of wood, and then you get in there with a mallet and a gouge and shape things.
I'm picturing Mr. Miyagi here, and you're building the whole backyard for this guy. Is that what's going on?
So then, so that's in a small basement shop around Casaloma.
Wow.
He's not there anymore, but he's still here in Toronto. Totally worth looking up. He and I are still in touch. And that sort of shifted into pipe organ building again. So things were getting really tough in Toronto in terms of money. Moved back to London and worked for Gabriel Ney and Company. So Gabriel Ney was a German pipe organ builder who'd been in business for about 40 or 45 years by the time I joined him. And I had enough carving experience that I was the guy who got to do the pipe shades, so all the really fancy, frilly stuff on the front of the pipe organs. Ton of fun. Oh, if you ever get the chance, be inside a pipe organ when it's being played.
What?
It's like I'm not a religious person. That is a religious experience.
Really? Just the acoustics, just the way.
And you're surrounded by sound.
Wow.
And it's not. So we were building tracker action pipe organs, which means that the key is actually mechanically attached to the valve through a series of pulleys and trackers and things, so that you can kind of control the amount of wind that's going into the pipe by the amount of pressure on the key. Completely different playing technique, right? It completely changes the sound, and you're up inside this thing, and the sound, because you've got maybe 10,000 pipes in one of these things, the sound can be coming from anywhere. Anyway, cool stuff.
Yeah, no. I'm mesmerized because this all began by you taking the initiative of Yellow Pages and reaching out and trying to find who is who.
I wanted to learn this.
Wow, I like that a lot.
How did they handle you? Did they respect you for coming to them?
Yes, and some of them I stayed. Some of them we remained pen pals for a while, and to that end, every single person I've ever worked for, I'm still in touch with.
Wow.
So, and that's how long have I been working? 30
plus.
Yeah.
So were they all willing to? I get the sense that they wanted to share this knowledge. They wanted to pass it on to somebody,
But not to anyone.
No,
Not just anybody.
That's
No.
exactly it.
And with all of those sorts of positions, there's a huge, because there's such an emotional investment
Connection,
in it,
yeah.
right? Because it's not easy work, and it also requires a certain kind of wiring, I think.
Patience.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
You know, as an example, when I started working at Gabriel's, my job was drilling holes. Before they would trust me, I had to spend 4 or 5 months just drilling different sized holes in the soundboards before the days of CNC, right? So it all was done on a
Press.
old general drill press.
Yeah, that's just that's a lot of work.
Not anymore. But there must be some people still making these things by hand, right?
Yeah,
I mean, there's no
absolutely.
sound
Absolutely.
like that, right?
Yes. I mean, the market for pipe organs, and if there was still a strong market for pipe organs, I'd still be doing it. But, I mean, again, it's a horrible wage, and it's an extremely rare thing now. So
Did it pay off the university?
working as a carpenter during a building boom in Toronto, I came out of university owing, I think I might have taken $1,000 in OSAP. And I had that paid off.
I'm
that
not
summer,
surprised.
Right.
I'm not surprised.
My only regret from those days was not buying the house that we were living in because it was available for
At the
$65,000.
time.
You know, today it's about $800
Or more.
or more.
Yeah.
But I'm also fascinated that you basically had a piece of so many different, like, industrial art and design, and then pipe, and then woodworking. You had like a piece of everything to get you to where you were headed.
Yep.
Was that just by accident, or were you kind of planning?
A little bit by design.
Okay.
It occurred to me that if you're going to own a business that's creative and makes things, you really need to know your shit.
One of the biggest compliments that I've gotten from more than a few of the youngins, right, is that I know my shit about every single trade. I could hold my own. There's a reason why that is, right? So then I don't talk shit when it comes to the industry, and I can say, yeah, I can literally take up your tools and do your job if I wanted to, but I don't want to. I actually want to be on the phone and have an espresso. That's what I want to do.
Well, but, you know, likewise, as the general in a situation like that, you've got a sense of everybody else's perspective
Yes.
and what their priorities are, which means that you can help to massage those awkward social moments when, you know, workers are being workers and they don't get along.
Well, even more important, you can stop the bullshit.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, when someone's trying to bullshit, you just say, shut up,
Yeah.
move over, let me show you how it's done.
Okay, let's take a little pause for...
Oh, building construction talk.
He doesn't even know any of these
I was
segments.
so captivated, I can't believe it.
Chris, we got to get back to your story, but we want to just share a little bit of information regarding...
Building code talk.
there we go. I'm going to test Carlito again because this has actually been expressed on the podcast before.
Dum, dum, dum.
What's the the maximum allowance between electrical outlets in a kitchen? Cannot be further than this apart. You know this.
Are you putting your hand up or are you telling me 3
He
feet?
knows it. Go ahead.
60 inches.
60. I got
Oh,
48.
no, it's 48 now. Right,
Yes,
that changed.
48.
So it used to
Yeah.
be 60.
Yeah.
48.
Was it really 60?
A long time ago. And around a sink, it is 11 inches and 11 and 7/8 inches.
Correct.
Wow.
Correct. Around a sink outlet. That was the next follow-up question, right? So I also wanted to ask you, gentlemen, let's get a little plumbing here. Venting an island sink. How do we vent an island sink? There's no walls.
Cheater pipe.
That's
That's not in the code, is it?
that's
No, but it is.
technically-
It is.
It passes.
As long as it's accessible.
It passes.
Like if you don't have it hidden and there's like an access panel to get to it, it's legal.
So
So
the one-way valve
That's
inside
right.
a cabinet.
Correct.
I have yet to see that in one of our installs.
well, that's why it's a cheater, but I don't like it. I always prefer the code way where you actually have to put your vent within 36 inches from the tailpiece. That's all it is. That's all they care about. And then you could drag it along to a wall section and get it out of there, right? That was...
Building code talk with Manny.
And I was thinking we were going to talk about distance to flammable surfaces from a stove.
That we talked about that already. We did that. We did a whole kitchen one, and we talked about it, and he was all shocked and how close he could. And
it's amazing.
It's actually pretty impressive there. But hang on. So we're talking to Chris McKaskell, okay? And you can find him at Chris McKaskell. So it's McKaskell. You could also find his partner in crime there, Chris Heindel. and that's HINDL. And then also online at www.mhdbonline.com, and it's also info at that same address. And then you want to reach out to him, text him 519. He's in the London area, Ontario, 318-4800. Chris, let's get
Well,
back
I want to, just before we go too far away from this and I forget, I wanted to ask, when you went for your carpentry, were these some of the things that they talked about when you were taking your license or getting your red seal?
Well,
Because you said 60, so that at one time that was something you passed at that point, right?
and it changes, right? What was interesting about writing the exam was that they provided you with a copy of the relevant portions of the building code. So
to your trade? Or
Yep.
to your...
even to the exam
Oh,
in particular.
okay.
And the exam's interesting, right? I mean, I was lucky enough. I served on the Cabinetmaker Trade Board at the Ontario College of Trades for 2 appointments. That's 5-6 years. One of the cool things we got to do was work on creating the new Cabinetmaker exams. And,
Wow.
Yeah, which was totally awesome, right? So a committee of us worked on editing, and which meant that we had to do all the exams as well as a group.
How far back is this? What are we talking about
This
here?
isn't that long ago. The new exam, like the government guideline is these exams have to be renewed every 5 years. And so we got to take part in the creation of the trade standard, so the apprentice booklet.
That's got to be quite an honor. I mean,
Oh, it
like,
was amazing.
your
It was
words,
awesome.
your ideas are in that book.
So one of the really interesting things I thought was there was a question about turning. It was asking what kinds of tools you might use for a particular kind of application. And I mean, I've done a lot of spindle turning. I would never use a scraper. But the correct answer is the scraper. And we talked about this as a group because we're not testing mastery, we're testing competence. So all you're trying to do with those exams is get people to a point where they know enough that they know where to find the answers to their questions and they know when they need to ask a question.
That's
But that's something you
interesting.
have to go to school to understand. Like you couldn't challenge that
Although
a
the
senior to like kind of get that and not go to school, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You'd have to go to school to
you
get
got to
that.
demonstrate the
Yeah.
hours in, which is why young folks out there, if you're thinking about grandfathering the exam, stay in touch with your former employers because you're going to need to get a letter signed that outlines the kind of work that you've been doing with them as well as the number of hours you've accomplished. But the school portion is only a fraction, like a tiny, tiny fraction of the amount of on-job hours you end up doing, and that's the part that really matters. So you want to get in with a good crew where you're going to learn a lot.
Now, is that realistic what you guys were putting on those questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Something that you would use
So-
every day in reality,
So one
not
of the things
just in school.
one of the things we did on the committee was we took all the exams. We all wrote the exams. So we wrote all the exams that we had in a pile, including the new ones, and then we would go through the answers. And more often than not, like probably 80% of the time, we all got exactly the same answer. So you just pass. Every now and again, you come up with a question where we all got different answers or we disagreed. And that's where you'd stop and examine the validity of the question.
Wow.
So that was one of them. Was when you're turning, I don't even remember what it was, a bead, to use a scraper or a skew chisel. It's a pretty rare school that even teaches wood turning, right? They just don't cover it. One high school in London that I'm aware of that actually still does wood turning, but otherwise. Oh, speaking of which,
What's that?
I brought you guys presents.
yes,
We
we
like
love
presents.
presents.
So, and I couldn't find a better bag. And
That's a perfect bag.
And my wife said, if these guys are anything like you, they're going to find the pretty red hearts really funny. But so one of the areas that
What's going on here?
Well, have
What's-
a- have a look,
As
have a
Manny
look.
reaches and grabs it, it's mine.
oh, look at that,
So
man.
one of the things I'm really weak on is
Wood?
bowl turning.
I knew it. Oh, that's sick. Did you make this? And watch this. I'm going to smell it now because you can't see.
Oh, man.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So those are 2 bowls. I haven't turned a bowl since grade 8. And
Carlito hasn't turned a bowl since last week.
So I thought, so I made these for you guys last night.
thank you so much.
This is amazing.
Wow.
Thanks, Chris, man.
And there's a story behind the wood that is, well, here, okay, skill testing question for you guys.
Uh-oh.
What kind of wood is that?
I was just about to ask you.
It is a very common local
I-
wood. You'll never get it, but try.
Gumwood.
No.
Eastern eucalyptus, not gumwood.
Well, I was just looking at the grains. It looked the color.
It looks similar though, doesn't it?
Yeah, the orangey.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and this will change. This will get quite a bit more brown. The reason it's so light right now is because I turned these last night.
Wow. I love the
Thank you
smell
very
of that.
much.
Thank you so much. That's so personal. I love it.
I
Thank
love
you.
that.
Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled.
And
to
you know
be
what?
here.
Now the bag really means a lot.
Well, okay. So
Because at first I was like, okay, there's a little bit of a problem here, but now there was a lot of love put into this.
let's go a step further. So my wife and I took down this tree. It's a mulberry.
Oh,
That's what mulberry looks like.
So
Yeah.
there's a whole story to this thing.
Well, and this actually ties into your last podcast, which was, get out there and buy a duplex. Well, in 2003, we did. We kept the mulberry trees for as long as we could because I like the fruit. But they had gotten big enough that they were starting to damage the houses on either side. So I had to cut them down. And for the most part, we ended up burning the wood. But this particular piece I kept because one of the apprentices was asking me questions several years ago about how wood changes color with sunlight. And so I took this piece of firewood. This is a piece of firewood. I took this piece of firewood into the shop. We masked off one half of the board, and we left it for about a year. And then we pulled the masking off a year later, and sure enough, the area that
Yeah, that's
had
what I was
been
going to
covered
ask
was
you.
just like that.
The lightness and the darkness of it.
And then the other area that hadn't been masked, beautiful deep brown wood. And you don't use mulberry for anything, but so this was what was left over,
It's very light.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't it amazing? And
And
surprisingly
what's the
hard.
purpose of this bowl? What was your intent on the bowl? Or is that a
okay.
personal thing for
So
each
you'll
person?
see that there's a number on the bottom of the bowl,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So you guys have got T3 and T4.
T4.
I managed to get 4 bowls out of this piece of firewood. The number 1 was the first bowl I have turned since grade 8. So I don't turn bowls. But I decided the other day that's a hole in my knowledge. I need to learn how. And so these are among the first 4 bowls from this piece of firewood that was saved for an apprentice.
That's amazing.
And here we are.
Wow.
Thank you, Chris,
you.
so much.
That is amazing. This is like beyond.
Nobody's ever going to top this.
Anyway, I just thought it looked like a cereal bowl.
No, it's perfect. We
you
love
know,
it, man.
I may even put a strap on and smell it all day.
Just ruined it.
No,
for
thank
me.
you so much. That's amazing.
Oh, thanks.
You're most welcome.
How do we get to that? Where do we?
We were talking about building code stuff.
Oh yeah.
I think this came out of a question about distances between receptacles.
No,
in a
but
kitchen.
also hanging on to the apprenticeships, and then also your mentors, finding guys, and then
Yep.
stay in touch with them
Yep.
the same way that you have, and then you haven't turned a bowl since grade 8, and here you are doing it again, just to sharpen the tools.
I want to get really good at this. I can see this as an excellent retirement project.
Oh, for sure.
Well, it's really funny is that I was working with KS and Company, Corp, whatever. Your handle is Christian and Dustin.
I love those guys.
And all of a sudden, Dustin came in and he's walking up the sidewalk and he's holding a piece of walnut with a line of hickory in it, right? And he goes, I'm making some cutting boards, right, for a client. And I'm like, great. So during the course of the day, I turn around and I see him using my planer as he's planing down the hickory just to get it smooth. And I'm like, it's my job site, Dustin. Maybe a bowl. Try a bowl next time. I want to get back into how did you get into kitchens? How did you find, because you've done some very interesting kitchen cabinetry. Everyone knows, and I'm sure you might know as well, I am a huge fan of Shaker. I absolutely love white Shaker. It's amazing. It's beautiful. It's my go-to. It's perfect. What's he doing?
He stopped listening a moment ago.
No, I'm listening, but yeah, he's a joke. He hates Shaker. No, you know what? There was something I wanted to ask, and I didn't want to interrupt, and I don't want to lose the thought, and I want to bring it back because we were talking about school. One of the things that always comes up with us talking about school, was it worth it? Like, did it pay off to be in a trade and take schooling? Because a lot of guys,
Absolutely.
a lot of guys I know that come out of school, they're not as smart as they should be for what they've learned, and it's not very practical in reality unless you're a furniture maker or something personal. You know, you sound like a very well-educated person. I wanted to find out how much it really helped you.
I think it really helps in relating to people. So if you find yourself being in a leadership position working with a huge cross-section of society, and I mean, let's say you're working from from somebody whose greatest aspiration is going to be to sweep floors, all the way up to your clients who are maybe very accomplished people. You've got to be able to treat everybody along that continuum with respect and understanding, which I think is really helped by the awareness. I mean, university now has become a kind of a trade school. Really, it's a professional trade school. People go to university to become accountants and doctors and lawyers and stuff, right? When I went, though, the whole idea was you were learning, you were approaching a level of universality, right? So you had a better idea of how the world works. I chose art history and physical geography because the art history hit the main historical periods of society, but from a builder's perspective, and the physical geography, it really helped me to understand how the world physically works and to identify
Minerals
or
Yeah.
different types of wood, like Quercus alba, right? That's white oak. Once you pack all that stuff, that knowledge away in your tool bag, there's an opportunity to utilize it to bring a diverse group of people together to work together really well on a project. I think that kind of background helps. Everybody's different, right? Everybody has different leadership styles, but I've always found that that perspective has sort of helped me to articulate things that are common goals that maybe a group of individuals, to help a group of individuals get online for the common goal.
No,
What I'm finding from like Mark, one of the last guys we interviewed, and like yourself, I'm finding that when you go to university, it prepares you to create great habits. Getting up early, accomplishing things, focusing, getting it done.
Getting up early in university?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's a habit. You would think that you can party and still get up early.
I think anybody that's gone to school and comes out and says that they haven't really gotten anything from it wasn't really looking carefully.
Right.
Well,
I think there's something to learn in every situation. And I've told people from day one, you get on a job site, we've had all kinds of guests and other conversations we had on real job sites where it's how you look at the situation.
I know,
Totally
but like the guys that I've had under me when I was like a supervisor for other people's companies, guys would say, "Oh, well, this guy just came out of school and he was in school for 4 or 5 years, and he's studying to be a carpenter." And I'm like, "Oh, this is gonna, finally someone that knows how to read a measuring tape and understand the tools." And I'm excited, but I'm more disappointed after I get to see them handling or reacting or behaving in construction. And I'm just like, I'm disappointed that they don't have what it takes. And but now I'm finding that if you go to university, but if you go to college, I don't feel like I'm getting that same drive.
I don't
But
know,
university
man.
is kind of drawing me that people coming out of university have like management skills and people skills. And
But like Chris, it's every time I've met somebody, it doesn't factor into me. Your CV doesn't factor into me.
Sure.
It's just the initial conversation I have with you, and we start talking about scope of work, for argument's sake, and then I see you on site, and I let you be. And then basically, you're given an opportunity. So now I'm not trying to breathe down your neck. I'm not trying to be that micromanager GC. I just want to see what you can do. Not everybody's great at every little thing, and not everybody is better because they went to school or worse.
But what I'm saying is, like, most people that just go to college are just going to college. Like, if you go to college and you study something, be passionate and do 150% when you come out. Show how much you put into it.
Sure. So let's back it up a little bit. Let's back it up with two items. One is too many people are going to university today, right?
1,000% agree.
I shouldn't have gone. I wasn't built for that environment. But
You did it to please your parents.
I did it because it was a requirement.
Okay.
So fine.
Okay.
And I don't have any regrets. No regrets at all. And I met some amazing people. And it has helped me. But also, I figured I'm stuck in this for the next 4 years. I'm going to make the most of it.
Exactly it.
And so I saw it as an opportunity, my last opportunity, to have access to really smart people who knew an awful lot about their subjects, right?
Wow.
I mean, where else can you find a husband and wife team who've spent their life studying Greek vases?
Wow.
Never outside. Wow. One of the geography profs had done really extensive field work in Africa and knew so much cool stuff. It's not information you have to then go to the library or go to the internet and look up. You can actually have an organic conversation with somebody who really knows their
And
shit.
the story is told through a different perspective
Yes.
now.
Yeah.
And that's what you value. So I think anybody that goes into any situation, you need to really look closely on what's happening here.
All right. So I think the message is if you're going to go to college, don't waste your time. Put 100% into it and come out of it with something.
Whatever you end up doing, don't waste
Yeah.
your time.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Apply yourself.
That's exactly.
Because I think some of the people that I've had under me just did it to do it, and it was the wrong attitude. So I'm glad that we got a message out of that. That's great.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to ask.
Yeah,
'cause-
and it's not just about. I probably came across wrong. It's not just about post-secondary education. It is about anything you apply yourself to. You've got to apply yourself.
Isn't life post-education?
Yeah.
That, like you're not supposed, like everybody in construction always talks about how you're constantly learning. You should be learning. Every day you learn. Yes, it is. You should
Every
be.
day.
Every day you learn.
the process of learning and challenging yourself should never end.
That's exactly it.
I've grouted for 30 years, and today I was grouting, and I ran into problems that I, in 30 years, haven't run into.
That's because you're using tech.
No,
So
I wasn't.
have you ever done an absolutely perfect grout job?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Wow. I bow to you.
Do you know who you're asking?
No, but it's true, but it's a passion too.
Yep.
Anyone can do it. It's there for you. You just read the instructions, and if you follow them properly and you care, you'll get that result. But most people don't.
Well, there's a fine line too, right? I mean, if you're constantly seeking improvement, you can get hard on yourself, do a perfectly acceptable job, and then beat yourself up for the little imperfections. Or you can, in a very Zen-like way, go, that was pretty good. People are going to appreciate this. I enjoyed the process. Next time, I'm going to do it a little different. It's
true.
Well said. It's true. That's very, very true. I want to get back to the kitchen cabinets.
Sure.
Yes. Sorry.
Because I'm fascinated by some of the stuff that I've seen that you do. And I'm like, going, why can't more people do like, why? Or is it clients are not asking for this?
Oh boy, it's also the market. It's
Oh, boy.
also the market. And when we first started showing in public, we would describe ourselves as being industrial artists.
Okay.
No one knew what that meant. And so we would miss the big jobs, but we could ask to go in and do a really unique focal point piece, so maybe a mantelpiece or the dining room table or something, but we'd miss out on the stuff that made the money. And so we had to, in order to be perceived in the market we were in, London, Ontario is a very conservative little place, in order to be perceived as a company worth hiring for stuff, we had to start billing ourselves as cabinet makers, kitchen cabinet makers specifically. The great thing about our relationship with Cardinal is, so Cardinal Fine Cabinetry, with whom we are in cahoots,
Okay.
has been around for 60 years.
Wow.
So 3 generations of owners. The current owners, young, forward-looking, design-oriented folks. And Cardinal for 60 years has been really focused on manufacturing in London, Ontario, which is significant because London got really hit very badly in terms of manufacturing back during the last big recession. But Cardinal has been serving builders and contractors solidly for 60 years.
Really?
With the new ownership, Paul and Lori, because of the design background, they'd always been following us. And so there was an opportunity to begin working together. And it worked so well that we simply moved under the same roof. And it's been wonderful.
How big is the shop?
30,000 square feet.
Holy
Yeah. 50 people, 50 employees.
That's some serious wood.
You have wood now.
Yeah, there you go.
30,000 square feet, eh? But that's how they've grown into that over the 60 years.
Yeah, so it's one of those funny older places where it
just keeps
it's
on growing
cobbled together. Yeah,
It
a little
just
bit.
gets connected.
And I don't think, I'm pretty sure this has been published. Yeah, I think this was published in an article last year or so. So I don't think I'm giving anything away, but Paul is very seriously looking at an expansion in order to meet demand and also help to streamline our current production processes.
How is the market these days? Are we just like it's busy, huh?
I find it really interesting to hear the prognosticators talking about this whole COVID thing, people being stuck at home and beginning to really dislike their spaces.
Yeah.
And so the expectation, as you guys are going to be well aware, is that there could well be a continued growth
For sure.
in the industry.
They're not going to travel. I mean, they'll travel less, but I think during this whole experience, people really discovered how not well their homes are. They wanted their homes to be a lot better, and they're probably thinking, how do we make this better?
Well, I always looked at it because I got, my family's European, so you don't spend much time in the house. It's two things. It's a place to eat and a place to store. And you go to sleep obviously there, but it's really eat and store. So you're never home. Here it's about storing, like storage, and showing off. So it's not practical. Like we talked about, so many people own these massive homes and they don't even enjoy them. Do you really need that much? At some point they're going to realize, I'm living in something I don't want to really live in.
Yep.
Or how far do I want to hide from my partner?
Right.
I think every podcast these days, he's always giving up some relationship advice. And I'm just saying to everybody, do not listen to his relationship
$68
advice.
an hour.
Right off the top of your head, Chris, how many, you're pretty big on social. You got a pretty good reach. You're older than Carlito, and you're a lot better off on social than he is, right? He just doesn't get the game. Who else should we be following? What other handles do you know of that just guys are pretty impressive that they're doing work here? Because I've actually had a great time finding guys outside of North America. There's some guys in Paris, France. There's guys all over the place that I'm paying attention to.
I would definitely follow Siggy Buehler.
Yeah, you mentioned
Beuhler.
Okay.
And I think it's just at Siggy Buehler. Steve the Wood Turner.
Okay.
He's a fellow who has been turning wood his entire life. He comes from a family of wood turners. They have been turning wood for 300 years.
Wow.
Yes. Imagine what he knows. And you can see it in his videos.
Passed down, huh?
Yeah, he's just amazing. And it's effortless for him.
I wonder if it's still the same tools that they were using 300 years ago.
300 years ago, they would have been using pole lathes. I've never seen him use a pole lathe, but some of the lathes he's got are like classic, vintage British industrial, right? Like made in Liverpool out of real British steel.
I could taste the Guinness right now.
And there are a couple of joiners as well. Joe, what is Joe's? The Lucent Crow. Lucent Crow.
Lucent Crow?
Lucent Crow.
Okay.
And Joe is a traditionally classically trained British joiner. He only just recently started getting machines. And until then, he was cutting all of his windows, so storms, sashes, by hand.
Wow.
Yeah. And every now and again, he'll repost stuff from a few years ago when before he got his tenonning machine and before he got his mitering machine.
Wow.
But it's phenomenal watching the skills these guys are working with. Anyway, those are just a couple.
No. That's what I wanted. I want to find those guys.
I wanted to defend myself for a second here.
About
the
what?
reason I'm not social is that I'm spending more time fixing other contractors' work.
What year is it?
And you know what? There's just so much work to do that I don't want to record it because...
What year is it?
It's just cutting guys up. But saying that, my social is this podcast. And where I do put a lot of time in with Manny here, not as much as Manny does, is in this podcast. So I think it kind of balances itself out in a different way.
Well, I think you guys are doing a magnificent job.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, both social and with things like this podcast. I mean, I think this podcast is serving a real need out there in the industry, and I hope more people listen to it. I'm certainly encouraging people to listen to it because you guys cover a wide range of subjects, and I think that you're probably representing the underlying values and attitudes that people don't want to talk about. Like the entertainment shit that happens on HGTV has done more.
I was on there.
Sorry, has done more to damage our industry, I think, than help it.
My chair just got I don't know.
Oh, you just got him all excited.
No.
No, drop it, Manny. Just drop it.
No.
Let Chris speak.
Have you worked with anybody from the TV land?
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you?
Absolutely. I'm not going to play any names right now, but we've worked on projects which were being designed by.
That was a great expression, by the way, Chris. I think around the design.
Don't fuel his fire.
The thing that troubles me most is it kind of devalues the amount of effort that really goes into the final project.
Yes.
Right? We've worked on projects where we've been on the project for months, and then a group of actors and a film crew come through for a weekend and make it look like it happened overnight. And
That's magic.
Yeah, but it also changes the expectations of our clients. The number of people who approach us and wonder why something is going to take, right now for the custom side of things, the area where Heindel and I are really focused, we're probably 20 weeks or
You're
longer.
20 weeks into a custom kitchen?
Yeah, I mean, we just started something recently that, 2 projects that we're finishing right now, we've been working on for over a year.
Can I ask?
I love hearing that.
Can I ask? Do you consider yourself a master carpenter? Is that what the term would be?
So in Canada, masters are only recognized in some of the restricted trades. Right, you can have a master plumber's license or a master electrician's license.
Kieran? He was talking about plastering and things like that. Yeah.
With the voluntary trades, and cabinet making and general carpentry are 2 voluntary trades. So you can practice
but we're
those
talking
trades.
about, you're doing something that's, I don't want to say ancient, but kind of forgotten, and only certain people appreciate what you can do.
I can operate a CNC machine too.
Oh, I like that.
Oh.
That's where the university comes in.
Why did you go down that road? You just...
Well, in order to before McKaskell Heindel joined Cardinal Fine Cabinetry, we just got pummeled by the recession, just pummeled. I had at that point 7 guys on the shop floor. I needed 8. Once we popped out the other side of the recession and things started getting busy, we wanted to run with it. I listened to a bunch of podcasts from Terry O'Reilly, Age of Persuasion guy. Or I guess now it's, I don't remember what he's calling it now, but fantastic radio show. He gave me the idea that you get through the other side of that thing, and you want to. It's like working gravity around a planet. You want to catapult yourself.
Yeah.
And so we grew really fast, and bought some new equipment, moved the shop, got super busy. So I had 7 guys on the shop floor. I needed 8. We bought a CNC machine. I had a CNC operator. And then one summer, I lost 4 of them. And it wasn't anything we were doing because we had very low turnover. I mean, I've had one of our oldest employees have been with us for 16 years. And
Wow, that's pretty serious.
yeah, so it was stuff like one young guy got an opportunity to build a house out in the mountains in British Columbia. Who's going to say no to that? Of
course not.
My CNC operator fell in love with a woman in Sarnia, so he moved away for love. Fair enough, but it means that all of a sudden, I had 2 weeks to learn how to operate the CNC machine. So I spent the next 80 solid hours with him every moment of every day, learning everything I could about that machine. It was necessity.
Was it quick, or do you like it?
I love it now.
You love it now, huh?
Yeah,
it's another tool.
It's another tool. It's super efficient for the repetitious stuff.
Yes.
It's also super efficient for some of the simple but complicated things.
Problem solving.
Yeah, totally. And it's brain gym.
Yeah, it's true. It is.
You're always solving a little puzzle.
Always. Yeah,
it's like
cool.
Sudoku.
So, getting more to your business, what do people come to you for?
On the Cardinal side of things, the relationship with builders, and let me approach that from a different angle. Because last year, Cardinal was recognized by the Report on Business magazine and the Globe and Mail as being one of Canada's top growing companies.
Good for them.
Yeah, so big honor. They were measuring increase in sales over the 3-year period, and it's I'm sure it doesn't have anything to do with McKaskell Heindel joining them, but coincidentally, the sales that were being measured for that award started the year that we arrived, and so Cardinal ramped up sales significantly. In the early days, we were talking about marketing it as you've got the solid ability to serve the needs of people in the industry, builders and renovators and contractors. And now, if you want something really unique, you've got this piece as well. And so if you're looking for that faux shark skin vanity, you know where to get it.
I want to see this faux shark skin vanity, man.
I do too. So what?
Hang on, before you go anywhere. Sorry. It's time for Green Book Talk.
Oh, great.
And you know what? Speaking to both of you, I'm realizing I'm just not doing my homework enough. So
are you talking about?
I've got these cheat sheets, and I just read off of them, and I should be really focusing.
Cue cards, Marlin.
Yeah, I should be really focusing on each individual person coming in and having a Green Book Talk for their trade. So I'm going to apologize to you that I don't have that on this one, but it is a Green Book Talk. I'm gonna have to change that about myself. So you know the game. So it's first offense, and you have to guess how much it is. I'm trying to change the numbers right now because Manny just keeps saying $5.50.
No, not true. Not true at all.
So my question to you, both of you guys, is constructor failing to take precautions on or prevent damage on adjacent building or structure.
$1,500.
Wow.
I'll go $5.50.
Manny's right, $5.50. I tried to trick him. So there you have it.
And that was Green Book Talk with Carlito. We are talking to Chris McKaskell. You can find him on Instagram. Only on Instagram or Twitter?
No, I'm on Twitter and Facebook.
You're on Twitter as well,
Yeah,
same
absolutely.
handle. Chris McKaskell. So it's McKaskell. And also you can find Chris Heindel. Heindel. Hindle, and also www.mhdbonline.com, info@mhdbonline.com, and also his phone number, which is 519, the lovely London, Ontario area code, 318-4800. We're having a fascinating talk about custom. This is really custom.
You know what? I think this is more of a conversation for Manny. He doesn't even care about the listeners at this point.
I know at the very beginning you hinted at custom, and it's truly custom means custom. Like I can't get builder. What you call these builders? The ones that call themselves custom.
Well,
builders?
everybody calls himself as a custom builder.
They're not. That's not custom building, right? So you guys are actually going in there, clients asking for something specific.
Shark skin.
Have you ever had clients ask you for something you just can't pull off, or you just?
Well, there's always a design element. So there's a design process.
That's a lovely process.
One of the and that's another conversation. But one of the reasons I think that Heindel and I have worked so well together is we haven't ever placed any limitations on each other. And so Heindel's background is in design. He studied environmental design at OCA. Well, it's OCAD now.
Yeah.
I've never said that cannot be done. And so he goes out into the world and comes up with these amazing ideas. And when he returns, we look at how we can do it. And so it's a problem-solving issue.
It's huge.
You know, sometimes things can't be done like that, but maybe we can accomplish that kind of thing by doing this.
How is that battle when you guys are designing certain things and you're still designing a piece that's very functional? Cabinetry is still functional. There's a purpose behind all of cabinetry. So I get that you want to create something beautiful design-wise, have certain finishes or techniques or details, but how is that process you guys juggling the functionality and the design? How's that?
We never run into roadblocks with each other until it comes down to pricing.
That's it. Because you got to the scope.
Well, yeah. I mean, if we can do something really amazing that the crew has never done before, that's serious stretching. I mean, that is an awesome learning.
An example?
The toughest. Okay, sure. We built a series of tables for it's actually a furniture manufacturer here in Toronto. One of them went to Chicago, one of them went to New York, one of them stayed here in Toronto. And the table had to be 30 feet long and 4.5 feet wide. And it had to be appear to be, like it was supported. There was a center wall between the two gables at either end of the table. But it had to be strong enough that somebody could sit or stand or dance on the edge of the center of the table without deflection, which meant I had to put on my engineer's hat and do a lot of math and figure out the static.
So can you tell us or no?
How did we accomplish it?
Yeah, how did you guys accomplish that?
It's really, really rigid steel. So that and triangulated, so that when force was coming down in the center of the table, it was being transferred into that center wall, which ultimately was being transferred into the two end gables because the connections between all the steel members was so sound. Oh, sorry. Sounds easy, right? You could just weld this thing up? No, because it had to be transported from London, Ontario to Toronto.
I was about to say 30 feet.
Right, and it had to be transported, but also had to be shipped to one went to their showroom in New York, another one went to their showroom in Chicago.
Was the theory behind it is that when you were putting pressure on one end, the rest of the table is absorbing that pressure to counter it?
Precisely.
That's how it worked, huh? So it's like a bridge.
Exactly like a bridge.
Like a bridge.
But with the... Yeah, no, actually exactly like a bridge.
Without,
I was just trying to remember which way the forces were going, right?
No, because I've done that before where you're just walking around different cities, including in Toronto, and you're just paying attention to certain things. You're like, how do they do that?
Why is that suspended like that?
Yeah, how does that work? And then you kind of figure it out, and then you put it together, and all of a sudden, you know what? I'm going to do a much minier version of that in my little rental that I'm doing.
Right.
Yeah, it's still applicable. I like that.
So, I mean, the items like that. But then, how do you get that done in a cost-efficient way that hits?
That's the big question.
The price points for the various different people who are part of the client's team, including the designer.
Ever had a client that just said, "No, that's just not too much. That's too little.
Yeah,
you
sure.
guys should be charging way more than that."
Only once. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it was awesome. And then we've done a few jobs. We've done a few sort of very prestigious private club kinds of jobs where we were told we had to sharpen our pencils again and again and again. And
I hate hearing that.
Right. And what I found out years later over dinner with, I hang on to former employers. I also try to hang on to former clients. So I'm out for dinner with the person that we were working with, and he laughed and said we were the lowest bidder.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
And he tells you years later.
Yep. Yeah. So you can't trust these fuckers.
You know what? Typically when someone tells me to sharpen my pencil, I double it.
Yep. Grind it down to a nub.
So if I'm a contractor, what am I typically buying from you?
We do a lot of white kitchens with dark wood islands. A lot of shaker style stuff.
You guys do a lot of that, really, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I don't personally, but the production line does, because that's what the market demands.
And what's different about your product versus someone else's?
The cardinal side of things, so the cardinal foundation, the decisions that we're making are looking at environmental factors. So we're trying to use as much as possible. We're trying to use less. We're trying to make sure that our byproduct is being used again. And so anything that comes out of the dust collector ends up getting shipped over to the East Elgin Innovation Center, where they're turning it into compost and they're doing things like that with it. So there's a big research and
Which is
development.
great that
thing
you
going
guys
on
are doing that. I like facilities like Brenlo does that too. They create the pucks.
Exactly.
I love all that stuff.
Big change for them when we came on was switching to Waterborne finishes, which...
Oh, really? Yeah, because they would have been all oil.
Yeah.
Up until...
All solvent, yeah.
Yes, wow.
Yeah, and Waterborne's come a long way.
Yeah, it's extremely
As strong as
durable.
lacquer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's good.
Yeah, it took a long time to get there, and it's still, if you're accustomed to spraying solvents, it's
easier.
doesn't- Well, it is now. Yeah, it is now.
It sits better, I guess, on the surfaces, right?
What'll happen with waterborne lacquers is you've got to take into account the environmental factors. So
VOCs?
VOCs are always part of it, and VOCs in waterborne stuff really low. More importantly, humidity, temperature, that kind of thing. And so there are certain environmental controls that just help the process. We haven't moved yet to a robotic kind of enclosed spray booth yet, but I can see that
Coming in the future.
I can see that
For
in the
sure you
future. Yeah, because it just gives you, it removes some of the human error portion of it, or the environmental weirdnesses that can pop up.
Yeah, that's true.
But once you've ridden that learning curve and you've got the physical side of it down in the chemistry, we're mixing our own colors and stuff like that. We're also using in the custom area, which is where the bulk of my knowledge is. We've been using those great European oils, so Osmo. These bowls are finished with Osmo top oil. So it's a food-safe oil, super durable. I've got it in my kitchen. I wanted to try it out before we started using it, and we cook a lot. We've got a hard-use kitchen, and it's held up great.
Okay, so what's your background?
Sorry, what?
What? I'm just curious. You love eating, so I want to find out what your background is.
Oh, sure. You mean like culturally?
Yes.
Well, I was born in Tennessee. So,
So you're American.
And Manny was making American jokes earlier.
No, I wasn't. Was I? Before we were recording.
there you go. It's all good. I'm a dual citizen.
Okay.
So I do my taxes in both countries. But that southern style of cooking means that I really like frying.
Spicy?
Yeah, I like spicy. Yeah.
Fried barbecue.
I'll put hot peppers and jalapenos on everything. Love the deep smoky barbecue, especially a real barbecue.
Oh, you
pit.
must have great smoker with
Well,
all these different woods. Oh,
And then the next thing is working on a pizza oven.
Yeah.
So we're actually I would suggest that where I really learned how to work was 3 years in high school when I was working as a pizza cook in a high volume pizzeria down the street from the university. We were doing on a Saturday night. We would do 3,000 pizzas,
wow.
all by hand.
Actually, we have something in common. I worked for Mother's Pizza for the Blue Jays.
Right
Yeah.
there, we go.
I was spinning dough all the time.
Exactly right.
I used to do it while people would be watching. They loved it.
What were you putting the pizzas on when it was going into the oven?
They were
straight
just
onto
pans, yeah.
Yeah, but was it the round sort of mesh pan?
Yeah,
It was
the
a
metal
round
one,
mesh
right?
metal,
Okay,
yeah.
Yeah. And when I was there for 3 years, and each year we ended up switching technology. And so I managed to go through everything being done by hand. Like, so, the prep guy would get in, which was usually me, mix everything from scratch.
Proof everything.
Yeah.
Oil it all up.
And then, we started slowly over those 3 years, got a little bit more automated. So on the third year, it was just far too automated. It was no longer fun. I left.
I got basically the manager wanted to fire me because I was putting double toppings on everything. What happened to be in the long run was the manager that from the Blue Jays actually called me and requested for me to come back because all the customers said that the pizzas weren't the
Where's
same
Carlito?
anymore. Yeah. And I said, no, I don't want the job. I'm going into trees. And I wanted to get into
Forestry
planting
and
trees
stuff,
and forestry. And anyways, went blah, blah, blah. Pizza man.
Pizza man. Let's get into some kitchen budgets.
Sure.
There's like TV budgets. There's like real budgets. Then there's like fantasy budgets. I guess you're seeing fantasy budget mostly of the time. People come in not realistic regarding.
Sometimes, although, and again, that's an area that I don't really focus on. So so I mean, we've got a team of 10 designer salespeople.
Wow.
Right, who are really good with
Getting the jobs and pricing them.
yeah, exactly. And then we've got 2 really custom guys. So Heindel would fall into that category. When I get involved in sales, it's usually got to do with restoration or some sort of high. They'll still get involved in carving or shaping.
What is that?
drawing.
Just so I would
Vaulted
understand.
carving?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like architectural wood carving or carving for furniture.
Okay.
Or turning. Or veneers, right? Getting into marquetry and stuff like that. Ilias Polizois of the Wood Studio and then Heindel really look after a lot of the custom stuff that comes up.
So at 20 to sometimes a year to produce a kitchen, I mean, what's the average cost?
So that's the custom side of things.
That's the custom side stuff.
Yeah, the sky's the
Whatever
limit.
you can think of client wise, design wise.
Yeah, but I mean sometimes the fun thing is getting a really interesting client in who wants really interesting results. Maybe doesn't have the budget, and it becomes a fun design exercise to meet their creative desires as well as their very real budget.
Yeah. It's a balance.
Yeah, and so, I mean, I was posting the other day curved, burled ash doors that I'm working on. I haven't been able to touch that project again for a while. It's a lower budget that they've got, and so we're working it into the... Just because it gave me the opportunity to teach the apprentices. So we've got 3 apprentices on the floor right now. Curves don't come up very often. So by taking that on, they get exposed to a technique that they might not get exposed to again for several years.
Steaming or shaping?
Well, in this one, we did it as a... so fantastic, great. You got a couple of different strategies, and what we did was we took this process and used it as one example of, say, 5 different strategies. We talked about the other strategies, and then we also tried a couple of them, so that there's.
Oh, so you guys were
learning on it.
experimenting just to.
Not experimenting for me, but
for the-
it was an opportunity to sort of do a little seminar on how to bend things.
So that's great that you're giving that opportunity to the kids because, like you said, they might not come across this.
Could be another 5 years before this comes up.
Oh,
I
wow.
went 8 years without doing a single curve, and then 1 year we had a dozen of them. So
So what is it in the market that's drawing for that, or is
Usually-
it just a eccentric customer?
no, it seems to come in waves, right? I mean, I'm still waiting for the wave where
Get it? It waves.
Yeah, right, exactly. But I'm still waiting for the dark island and white kitchen perimeter to disappear as a wave. But it
Disappeared on my planet.
Well, you lost them at Shaker.
I've got to ask you, Chris, what's your kitchen look like?
very eclectic. So because we cook a lot, I like surfaces. We don't. Okay, we do not have a huge kitchen. I am not.
So I know, but I bet you any money your kitchen
Has no cabinets up.
No, it's designed for the person actually using it.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
Yeah. So
It's not designed for the person looking at it.
correct. Yeah.
So it's very eclectic. So
I got a piece of marble that I love doing because I like making pasta. And
what kind of marble is it? Do you know of?
It's white Carrara. It's statuary. Yep.
Okay.
And it's just, 3/4 inch slab. It's perfect for what I need it for.
I'm so hungry right now.
On the
I
other,
know. I'm getting
on
hungry.
the other side of the stove, and several years ago, I bought one of those big Viking open burner things
Yeah.
before they switched to Brigand or whatever it is. So this is one of those stoves, like a commercial stove, where you turn it on. Right? The flame flies up about 3 feet.
So you're waiting for the shuttle to take off.
Oh yeah, no. So you can do some serious searing. You can do some really serious work on your
Oh
skillet.
man, I love it.
Ash that was reclaimed from emerald ash borer over here, just a big solid slab with Osmo top oil on it. All stainless steel with a welded in sink behind me. Everything's close in. We had a great dinner at Cafe 623. It's in
In London?
no, it's in Vancouver.
Oh.
And it was a small intimate restaurant. One guy working in the kitchen because there was only room for one guy. And I loved watching him work. And so I kind of formed the workstations in our kitchen around what I watched him doing. So everything is totally 100% functional with an open shelf running along. Perfect.
Just for...
The one beside the stove, just for oils.
Yes.
Over here for
Yes.
spices.
I knew it.
Above the where we're going to plate or wash.
Because you're a
plates.
cook.
No, because that's a kitchen.
No,
That's a
but
kitchen.
that's a cook.
Yeah. And then down below, mostly drawers, right? Because that's the most effective way to
for
store
the
stuff.
items that you need at that station, that
Yep.
area, that
Yep.
it's functional.
Yep.
I love it.
Yep. And
It's
then,
not hiding or storing things. Yeah.
big, well, not big, but a bookcase full of cookbooks and a chalkboard. Oh, right, yeah. That's another major feature in ours. Oh, and a rack with more stuff and more racks. And
I've always
pots hanging from the ceiling.
I've always suggested the chalkboards, even making it to a whiteboard, and then I even started thinking around with the idea of just suggesting touch screens and using that whole kind of thing.
or all of it, right? Because
Yeah.
with like a book stand, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes you're going to be working from a cookbook. Sometimes you're going to be drawing, planning out on the chalkboard
yeah,
itself.
but sometimes you'll be digital.
Sometimes you just screen.
Yeah.
And so we got all that on one wall.
That's wicked.
It's amazing. It's
But
not wicked.
I know, but the thing is that when you see these kitchens that are actually being produced or being manufactured, or these clients that they want these kinds of kitchens,
Yeah.
you're not seeing any of those details.
Well, I love it when people, you throw out the idea of a 36-inch counter, and Heindel came up with this years ago for a couple that we did work for, and one of them super tall, the other one not super tall, but my stature. The tall one really, really liked to wash the dishes and keep the kitchen maintained, and so Heindel came up with the idea of raising the cabinet up that had the sink in it to bring the bottom of the sink up to a level that was comfortable for him.
Okay.
Where the guy who's doing most of the cooking has got sort of 36-inch countertops throughout the rest of the kitchen. So the two of them just jam off of each other, one's handing the other plates.
How much higher did he make the sink?
About 4 inches.
4-inch difference, and I bet you it's a huge world of difference.
Huge world of difference. And it made the fellow who really liked washing the dishes and keeping things cleaned, all of a sudden his back stopped bothering him.
Look at that.
Yeah.
So that's basically almost washing machine, dryer machine height.
Sure.
I feel the same way with shower heads.
Well, think about a workbench, right? You want to have your workbench up about elbow height.
Exactly.
So,
Oh, I fucking love that.
I don't even feel like we're even like we're just skimming the top of you here.
this has been an enormous pleasure. I am thrilled to.
No,
have
this
the
has been
opportunity
great
to-
having you
to
here.
meet
But
you guys.
no, this is amazing talking with you. There's a lot of respect here.
But
Seriously.
I haven't even really heard of, like, we're talking about your business, but like talking to you at the beginning about furniture making and how, how much you know about different types of woods. I'm just kind of wondering how that kind of gets into your work. And I just wanted to hear a little bit about that.
Sure.
I got an easier question.
Yeah.
When was the last time you were in IKEA?
Oh, they're the ones with the catalog, right?
Well, because you have so much passion.
Back to Carlito's question.
Well, you have so much passion, and for you to be interested in this business for so long, like, there's a couple things you said, like you had an employee for over 16 years. You're constantly educating young people coming into the industry.
Whenever we can, we take in high school co-op students because it's a great way to give them exposure. They see if they like it.
Yeah.
We see if they fit in.
What are your expectations from them? Like when
Very little.
when you get them, what is it is it just a co-op student, or do you have like certain criteria for someone?
I've got a test that I do with people. I can't share it with you right now, but actually, I wrote an article in.
But you'll tell us after the mics stop recording, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you can read about it because I just wrote an article about it in Woodworking Industry magazine. You'll find that some kids are just getting a credit. You'll find that some kids actually do have that physical intelligence and interest. What I do, and I got different ways. The way I train co-op students is one thing. The way I train apprentices is another. But with co-op students, you give them the shittiest jobs, sweeping, cleaning the machines, and you keep them with it to see how they hold up. And if they've got the gumption to see that stuff through and not complain and even ask questions, like I love it when, so we'll lock a machine out. We'll talk about how to lock things out. We'll talk about electricity a little bit, just an introduction. We've got some machines that date back to the 1940s and some that are completely modern and electronic, right? And so the 1940s machine is awesome because there are 3 completely different grease fittings. And so, you've got that grease fitting that you advance by turning the screw. You've got the rate, and then you've got the oil drop holes. If somebody shows some interest, we'll lock a machine out. You can open up this machine, do anything you want to it. Make sure when you're done, make sure it is sparkling clean. Mm-hmm. And it gives them they're performing a service for the shop because they're cleaning the machine. That then turns into some maintenance because I'll come by with an oil can and we'll oil the thing up and polish it, and we'll talk about adjusting things, and I'll get it running again. It gives them exposure to this thing that otherwise they would not be allowed to touch.
Yeah. What do you do for the apprentice?
I build them up with the safety stuff is absolutely inherent. Okay,
Yes.
So first rule is if anything doesn't feel right for any reason, and I don't care what the reason is, like you're having a bad day, you didn't sleep well last night, I don't care. If for any reason something doesn't feel right, stop. Do not do it. Find a better way, talk to a supervisor, get some help, whatever. But way too often I've seen people, especially in the past since I started using that way of describing the situation, cut themselves. And the first thing out of their mouth is, darn, I knew that was going to happen. Right? And so I like to encourage people to develop that little voice inside their heads that tells them when something's not right or dangerous. Listen to that little voice, respect it, do what it says. Stop, just stop. And that's where everything starts with anybody who's on the shop floor. That said, co-op students never touch machines unless they're cleaning them. They don't get to actually operate them. And then if there's interest, you can get them signed up with youth apprenticeship programs, so their co-op time actually counts toward their apprenticeship time.
Oh, that's
immediately.
good.
Yep.
Okay.
It's a win-win situation. And then with apprentices, I'll give them a simple skill, putting together a particular kind of joint, and they'll work that a couple of times, and I'll give them another skill, and then I'll go back and I'll give them 5 or 6 projects that require this one. So they get a little bit of volume, and then I'll give them something that's a bit complex and requires them to put all 3 or 4 skills together, but I won't tell them how to do it.
This is like martial arts.
Anybody here with a martial arts background?
Me.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So I took Hapkido for basically my whole life.
Yeah.
Muay Thai,
Yeah.
Kung Fu. Yeah. But like Muay Thai and
How long have you been doing it for?
since I was like 6.
Okay. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's exactly what you're saying. Like, you know, I teach somebody a basic move, and then I teach them how to do it 20 different ways.
And then once they've shown that they can put these complex ideas together, you begin to pressure test them. And so you start giving them deadlines and stuff and see how they handle under pressure. And so it's just like self-defense training where you work the skill and then martial art background too, right?
What?
I've got black belts in 3 different styles.
Wow. Sorry, I have to ask. I'm very passionate about it. So.
Foundation is Huichiru, which is not too unlike Goju, but without a lot of the formality.
3 black belts. You're a serious man.
9 actually. So
9.
I've done 9 tests, but 3 different styles.
So are you?
So highest rank for me is Godan, 5th degree black belt. I've got a master teacher's certificate.
Wow.
You teach it too, don't you?
Have for years, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I teach a quiet little Sunday
Do you
class.
find it funny that what your martial arts is actually helping all your students at work? Or not your students, but your employees?
Yeah, totally related.
Yeah.
But you can't talk about that stuff because it's weird.
Yeah. But
Why
you
is
don't
it
let
weird?
them know.
Why is it weird? I don't understand why.
The moment, at least I find anyway, anytime martial arts comes up in a conversation, people who are into it, all right, get excited.
Yeah.
People who aren't, don't know about it, they get a little bit, I don't think scared is the right word, but it just ill at ease.
Yeah, but you carry it very well. I usually pick it up on everybody. I didn't pick up on you.
Cool.
Until you were speaking,
Even
and then
with the tattoo? Come on.
Yeah, no, I wasn't actually looking that close, but now I do. Yeah, just the way you were speaking, I was like, this sounds like martial arts.
Yeah, well, and that's exactly the model, right? And then you pressure test it, and you learn a lot about the person. And after that first pressure testing, I've got a pretty good idea of what kinds of work I need to give that person in order for them to continue developing into a really good cabinet maker. So a lot of my focus at work is about, kind of looking into how can we help this person get really good at this?
I love it.
That's amazing. Seriously, man.
And you know what? People don't even probably know what you're doing for them at work until they listen to this.
Because you don't bring it up.
No, every now and again you'll get somebody who shows they have leadership potential.
Okay.
And so you start having more conversations with them. I've got somebody right now that I'm starting to work with that has got the educational part down, still an apprentice, but has got all the markers for somebody who could run a shop. And
Nice.
so
He sees things before they happen.
it's she actually.
Oh, she! Wow,
and,
fantastic.
But yeah, she's got the ability to look ahead and is always thinking about what to do next and is always looking for ways to fill time. But more importantly, is also always looking at how to improve things for everybody else. Wow. So that's totally worth supporting, right?
Of course.
And it's worth identifying, letting
Yes.
them know that they've got this and that they should pay more attention to it.
Is she one of your martial arts students?
No. No.
But might be one day.
Yeah, that'd be fine. Yeah.
That'll be fine. Unfortunately, we gotta get to the.
I just feel like we're just
We're not at
starting.
the very, very end, but we gotta get to the end. I do want to shout out one more time. So find you guys at www.mhdbonline.com. Also info@mhdbonline.com. Chris McKaskell, so McKaskell. That's on Instagram and also on Twitter. And same with Chris's. The other Chris is Heidel, which is Hindl.
HAI.
Sorry, Hindl. And then your phone number is 519-318-4800.
Perfect.
Chris, this has been a very, very interesting. I love this. I loved how you have such an amazing path to where you are, how you got there, and how it's all connected to your skill set. And it's amazing, man. You know, it's amazing.
I feel like we're buddies and we're talking, and it doesn't always happen that way. You know, like you talk about great things, but I
You've
feel
never
really
spoken to him on
no, but I feel really connected to everything you're saying, and I don't know if it's the passion for the industry or wood. No, are you thinking something dirty?
No, no. You're the one laughing, okay? But we do have one more segment.
Oh, the 10 questions.
Oh boy. Okay.
So I'm sure you've heard this one before.
I'm sitting down. I hope I'm ready.
Okay, there's no right or wrong. There's no right or wrong. There's just truth. The first question is, what is your favorite construction word?
Plenum.
Wow.
What is your least favorite construction word?
It can't be done. Sorry, that's not a word, but
It's in a statement.
Can't.
Can't. What turns you on in construction?
wow, it's the idea of taking a diverse bunch of people and getting them to work together on
Wow.
a single goal.
That's actually very good.
Totally love it when a team starts to really flow
Work.
together. Wow.
What turns you off in construction?
The exact opposite of that. When you've got a bunch of individuals in there who
Blinders.
who are only interested in doing their own thing and don't give a shit about what anybody else is doing.
What is your favorite curse word?
Holy fuck.
That was really personal. Holy fuck.
And I mean it.
What construction sound or noise do you love?
I love the sound of an on-site air compressor, and there's a reason for
Wow.
that.
An on-site.
Yep. Just a little portable or even something a little bit bigger.
Gas powered or electric?
It could be diesel. That's fine.
And diesel.
Because when I first started in carpentry, it was before the days of portable compressors and nail guns. And so we were nailing down sheathing by hand. And I will never forget the pleasure of getting that first. Elliot picked up, it was a Makita framing nailer. And what used to take me days to do, I got done in a morning. And it was such a great feeling of accomplishment. Bam.
Yes.
Love that sound.
What construction sound or noise do you hate?
I imagine everybody says jackhammer. But
People actually love jackhammers.
yeah, I think it's actually, I really don't like the sound of tile cutters. That high pitch.
Oh, wet saws.
Yeah.
Wet saws.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Makes your ear
It's
wa-
grinding. It's
Yeah.
grinding. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
I think if I was going through again, so as a trade, I'd love to be an electrician, but as a sort of a profession that's related to construction, I think a structural structural engineer.
Engineer.
I'd love to build bridges. Can you imagine? Right?
What profession would you not like to do?
I don't enjoy accounting.
I know. We're all in that boat.
And yet
Everyone
and yet
should
it's-
really love that.
And yet it's crucial. Right?
Most important one.
And the last one, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
I want to show up and hear one of those great jokes, right? Like, the one about the guy who arrived a little bit too early, and so St. Peter says, "Sorry, there's no room for you. What do you want to do for the next 2 weeks? Well, we make room for you. Well, I'd love to be I'd love to be a stud on a pig farm. Okay, kazam! Now a stud on a pig farm. And St. Peter wonders, why would somebody want to get sandwiched between two sheets of drywall?
That was a good one. You got me.
Oh, that was great. Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you.
Oh, what a great
Enormous
show,
pleasure.
man.
Can I say one more thing?
What? Go ahead. Sure.
It's funny you said you were working by hand. I got the privilege to work for the city for a little while, and I got to look at 30 years of working for myself in construction, and then I got to experiment a little bit outside my comfort zone and do something different that was same old pretty much every day. But I got to swing a hammer and nails, and I'm a screw guy.
Right.
And the only thing I nail is structural. I got to reinvent my swing, and now I can actually use a hammer like a real man.
Bop, bop, bop.
Like, it's crazy. Like, before I'd be like, ding, 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 ding. Now I'm like, bam! Another thing I learned to use really well that I thought I was good at it, but I wasn't, because the city likes to use worm dries. So now I can cut plywood, I can cut anything with a worm drive, and I lost that ability to because I got so spoiled by air tools, table saws, and miter saws. I just felt like I wanted to share that.
It's one of those cases where you need to be able to. Just because you don't have the tools you want doesn't mean you don't still do the job. It's about figuring out how to take what you've got, make it work, and so that kind of cross training.
Oh my goodness! I can't believe we forgot
And
this.
and one last thing, you being I don't know what level if you are like a grandmaster or if you're whatever you are in your schooling for martial arts. When you said can't. And I knew that you were in martial arts. I thought I had to do 50 push-ups.
That's not where I was going with it.
If you said can't in martial arts, it's 50 push-ups right away.
That's not where I was going with that.
Okay.
I can't believe we've had him on the show, Chris on the show. We haven't even asked you about tools.
I know.
That's where I was going with it.
Okay, let's do it.
What are you? Who are you with? What do you like?
Oh, in terms of equipment?
Yeah.
Like I'm assuming
Hand tools?
Yeah, I've been doing it too long to have one singular loyalty.
Because that's truth.
Back in the days, like when I first started, Makita made the best cordless drills, right? And then but I've been through everybody's tools, and what I found is that everybody has one particular tool that has a nice moment. So I love
moment.
I love the Festool Domino.
Wow.
But
That's nice.
I hate their sanders, and I like their vacuum. Although I'm not going to spend that much money on a vacuum.
I
love how
Sorry,
you're
Tony.
balancing the two. No, I love
Right?
how you're balancing the two. And it's
And-
true. Tony's he's all over those.
Yep, totally.
But at $3,000 for a
But you notice
vacuum.
that Tony also uses a DeWalt 12-inch
Yeah.
compound miter saw, right?
Yeah.
I've got
Which Tony are we
handful of
talking
them.
about?
Cordero.
TC Installations.
Okay,
He was
okay.
on the show, by the way.
Yeah, no, because there's more than one Tony.
Sorry,
In
of course there is. Of
Timber
course there
Taylor.
is.
I thought it was Timber Taylor you were talking about. He was a Makita guy.
Right.
Yes.
He likes the
Hitachi.
Japanese Makita.
Hitachi.
So
Hitachi. Sorry, I thought it was Makita.
Yeah, so we just make sure that we've got all the battery platforms represented in the shop floor.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you guys everybody just...
Yeah, and I mean, for me, I'm a Milwaukee cordless guy right now. At the moment, I'm a Milwaukee cordless
That's
guy.
surprising to hear, honestly.
Only because I found their equipment to be. I mean, my wife and I, a few years ago on our duplex, we installed a steel roof, a Vic West steel roof,
Yep.
came out of Stratford, right? I would do that again in a heartbeat. It was the best summer ever. She and I spent so much time together that summer doing this roof. We hadn't spent time like that together since before we had kids. It was just a ton of fun working with her. And at one point, I dropped my cordless drill off the roof. It falls 35 feet straight down onto concrete. It was fine.
And that was Milwaukee?
That was in Milwaukee.
Wow.
One of the brushless, the newer ones that they've been doing the last few years.
The DeWalt was inside hanging pictures.
Right. But what I found with the DeWalt, so right now it's a DeWalt 12-inch compound miter saw as the standard for us. I still like the general 350 table saw, but we've got a saw stop on the shop floor, courtesy of Elias. I've got the DeWalt stuff that I use on site. Partly, I don't like the ergonomics. I find them a little bit too big for my hand, but one battery platform on site. It's
true.
Right? And some of their...
Yeah, it makes a big deal.
Right? I like the cutoff thing. I like the planer because I can just hook it up to a regular rigid vacuum.
A regular, basic, working all the time
Yeah, 'cause I'm
vacuum.
going to destroy the vacuum anyway.
Yeah.
In terms of sanders, Mirka's good.
So you got a bit of everything, huh?
Whatever works best at that from that company's offerings at the time. I would not have.
I thought you were a Makita guy for sure.
Yeah,
I just
and
assumed that.
So I've got a bunch of Makita pinners. I've got a Bosch framing nailer and a Milwaukee 16 gauge. Anyway,
Any Hilti?
Well, he's not into concrete.
well, I mean, I've got a Bosch rotary hammer.
He's teasing me because most of my collection is Hilti.
Right. No, I've had Hilti drills before, and they're great. They used to make a hammer drill that was just phenomenal, right? A lot like the AEG from 20 years ago, and you see these designs sometimes cycle through again, right? I mean, I've still got a 1/2 inch, 3-gear reduced Sears Craftsman drill, top RPM 350.
It must be heavy.
It's heavy. It's heavy, and you can run a hole saw off this thing. That's like, you can use the biggest hole saw.
How warm does that thing get?
It gets warm, and it will tear your wrists to pieces.
Yeah, it would just rip right out of the socket.
But
you need a harness
or how
for
about
it.
how about the Milwaukee hole hog, right?
Yeah.
Right? You got to take
They're
a step
dangerous,
further.
man.
So you use the outrigger, or whatever you call it, that side.
The handle.
Yeah,
Put that
you have
handle
to.
on there.
Yeah, and hang on.
Yeah, but if you're coring the ends of, say, newel posts, because you're going to do a steel post into a relatively thin new build floor, and you need the strength that you're not going to get from the top, because who thinks about the next guy anymore?
Nobody.
I do.
Yeah, good.
I think what the key point is that everybody starts the job, but no one finishes it. And I think that the most important part is that you just need to finish what you started. And that's leaving the next guy ready.
And sometimes just getting a phone call to say, listen, we've run into this. It might have an impact on you. I just wanted to make you aware.
That way
that's even a nice thought too, man.
You can price it differently that way too. You're not stuck losing money. But what I wanted to say is, I've been buying a lot of Makita stuff and I'm like loving Makita.
Really?
Yeah.
What happened to Hilti?
You know what?
Exactly.
No,
that was last year.
No, honestly, I've been watching a couple guys on Instagram, and they made a couple points and a couple things, and I was like, that's interesting. And then I went to Mississauga Hardware, and I talked to Tony for a little bit, and he gave me some stats too that impressed me. So I decided to go that way, and now I'm just kind of, like you said, the batteries, but I'm enjoying the tools.
I'm glad that we finally got that in there because I thought we were going to forget
We're doing
that
a second. We're doing a second one.
Right?
We have to do a second one with you for sure.
We got to get you back. We'll come to you.
I'd be thrilled. Well, you guys are always welcome. We could do a shop tour.
Oh,
and,
that would
Can we
be
do a
amazing.
balloon ride? Because London is really good for balloon rides.
So there was an accident several years ago, and they just don't insure them anymore.
No, but you
Really?
can still do them, though, can't you?
You can still, there are one or two companies that will still fly over the city, but it's not it was a huge thing for years. There was a really solid decade of enormous balloon presence. Last year, I think we maybe saw half a dozen.
Well,
That was it.
I had a crash in a balloon.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Of course you did.
Yeah.
Something about that.
There was, I was trying, it was Canada, just before, it was Canada Day.
Were you in it?
Yes.
Okay.
So me and my wife were in there, and the guy said to me, hey, the rest of the balloons are going to go to the next location. It's going to be another hour or so. We're going to fly in the air. And he's like, this is the last chance I have to drop. And our van's following us. What do you want to do? And I said, take us down. And I guess he opened it up too much. And we went 14 floors down, and I swear, 2 seconds, dragged across a spinach field.
3.5 meters per second.
My wife sprained her wrist, and she was laying sideways, buddies in the spinach field, just trying to stop us. And then it was great. At the end of it all, it was great. I shouldn't have told them, take us down.
So we do want to say, Chris, thank you very much again. And I'm sure that you're encouraging anybody that's listening to reach out to you if they've got any questions or if they're even interested in being an apprentice or
Text works best.
Work for free. Absorb that knowledge, pass it on. That's really important. We also suggest the same thing. Reach out to Carlito and myself. You guys have any questions? We appreciate all the DMs. We appreciate all the guys that are listening and girls listening.
It's better if you DM Manny.
I know,
he gets right back to you.
You'll get replied back to.
I put my phone down and actually don't pick it up until the end of the day.
So anybody out there that's listening to us and they want to be on the show, let us know. Contact us and schedule to be on the show.
You're a poet. You didn't even know it.
Thank you again, Chris. Really appreciate it. This has been an amazing show.
Enormous pleasure. Thank you very much.
So much for us, man.
Oh, we're doing number 2, Chris.
We definitely have to do it. And there's so much more to talk about. But I'm glad that we touched upon so much on this one, man. So it's great. Thanks very much. Carlito, get us out of here, man. Again, you can find Chris at www.mhdbonline.com or info@mhdbonline.com. You can get him on Instagram at Chris McKaskell, and that's McKaskell. And also Chris Heidel, HINDL, and the phone number is 519-519-318-488. Oh my God, your beatbox is changing me up. 519-318-4800.
416 TO, baby.
Thanks, Chris.
We're out of here.